So good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, delivered in partnership with the Association of MBAs, where we will be discussing sustainability in business schools and evolving student sentiments. And I'm delighted to be joined by Mina Haume, Professor of Sustainable Management at Aldo School of Business. Welcome, Mina.
Thank you, Jack. Great to be with you.
Thank you. So before we start, just some quick introductions. My name is Jack Craig and I'm a partnerships manager at Unibuddy. Before joining Unibuddy, my background was in higher education, and I'd spent about 10 years working at universities across the UK. 8 of those were actually spent at London Business School. Now my role is focused on working with universities to build and develop digital sort of students and alumni ambassador programs and support with their peer-to-peer recruitment strategies. So Mina, I know you'll be providing a more detailed overview of your work at Aldo, but would you be able to sort of provide a quick introduction to yourself and your role at Aldo now for the audience?
Sure, Jack. Thanks. Yes. So indeed, I'm Professor of Sustainability Management at the Aldo University School of Business. And until the beginning of this year, I actually used to be for 4 years Director of Aldo Sustainability Hub with 50% of my time. And the hub was meant to integrate sustainability into research and teaching at the Aldo University level. And from the beginning of this year, Aldo has had a sustainability at the core of its very strategy, because the strategy was being renewed. So now I've sort of stepped out from that role because sustainability is at a higher level. And to mention a few things that probably are useful for you to know is I'm also co-founder of our Multidisciplinary Creative Sustainability master program, and I teach a lot at the executive education on the matters of sustainability in business and CSR. And I lead a 30-member research unit on sustainability in business topics.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mina. And one of the reasons we were so keen to have you on board was because of this kind of really broad range of initiatives that you've led and been so heavily involved in, and the kind of cross-functional nature of them. But I don't want to have any spoilers yet. Well, you can sort of talk about that in more detail in a moment. So in terms of what we will cover today, I'll start by looking at some of the high-level trends we're seeing amongst business school prospects and graduates in terms of their perspective on sustainability and how it's informing both their choice of study destination as well as their career goals post-graduation. I'll then hand over to Mina, who will be providing an overview of how Aldo have placed sustainability at the heart of their strategic vision and how this is also translated into sort of learning outcomes for their students. And for the final part of the session, we'll open this up to the audience, where we will use a Q&A format to tease out some practical guidance on how sustainability and corporate responsibility can be adopted as a strategic priority at multiple levels of an institution. So the theme for today was originally going to be focused on looking at a range of new priorities and preoccupations that were emerging amongst prospective business school students, and preoccupations that were taking on a more influential role in their decision making when they were researching where to complete their studies. However, when I first started preparing for this session and started looking through the conversation trends on the Unibuddy platform, as well as a range of kind of external research and data, a theme that emerged as an outlier and an increasingly important driver behind student decision-making was sustainability and social impact more broadly. And, given the current news cycle and the clearly observable and accelerating impacts that climate change are having across the world, it felt appropriate to focus on this topic now. So, I mean, just yesterday, I read another article citing multiple studies that show Generation Z are not just factoring environmental and social impact concerns into their day-to-day consumer choices, but they're placing these concerns at their hearts of their major life decisions relating to choice of study program and their career path. So the challenge of embedding sustainability within business school curriculums and their day-to-day operations, and really at the core experiences of students and staff, is one I'm sure all of the audience are familiar with. It's certainly something that I encountered when working within universities and business schools. And the key goal of this session is not only looking at the trends in more detail, but also looking at practical ways in which schools can respond to these trends and implement change through cross-functional school-wide initiatives. So just to kind of set some context, I mentioned that there's numerous studies on this topic, and there's been tons of research done in this area. But on this slide, I wanted to highlight a few statistics specific to the business school student and alumni population. According to this year's Carrington Crisp survey of prospective MBA students, 52% of the study's respondents said it was very important that their MBA includes content on responsible management. This was an increase on 10% on just last year's results, and was one of the most dramatic shifts in student sentiment from this year's study. And the Carrington Crisp report's sort of overarching takeaway from that statistic is that there's a growing demand that the content within MBAs and other business degrees is reflective of the world that students live in today and also anticipate tomorrow. And the type of content that students highlighted included diversity, equality, but also global challenges and tackling global challenges around climate change, poverty and pandemics, and ethical leadership. And as these sort of stats illustrate, these trends are not just seen in the intentions of incoming students, but also the careers they pursue post-graduation. The number of business school graduates choosing a career in the oil and gas industry has fallen by 16% since 2019 and 40% since 2006. And over this same 15-year period, there's been a 20% increase in students recruited to renewable and environmental industries. And the analysis of the data highlights how millennials and Generation Z specifically are placing an ever greater focus on climate change as they enter the MBA jobs market. However, just to play devil's advocate, still a very small proportion of students are going into the third sector. Only 2.7% of business school grads are working in government, charities, and social enterprises. And finance, consulting, and technology are still dominating postgraduate employment for business schools. So this does suggest there is still a disjunct between the intentions and goals of many business school prospects and their outcomes post-graduation. And I think that's something to reflect on when we look at some of the work that Aldo have been doing. But even with this slight disjunct, this trend is growing. This year's Times Higher Education Impact Survey asked 2,000 prospective students about what factors influence their choice of study destination. And they found that a university's commitment to and reputation for sustainability specifically was ranked as more important than the location of the university, and only narrowly behind the ranking position of the school. And as Generation Z students become increasingly impacted by the consequences of climate change, the feeling is that the manner in which a university approaches sustainability will only become more influential in student decision-making. And this trend is also consistent with what we see at Unibuddy within the conversational data on the platform. So, just for clarity, this is where prospective students are having peer-to-peer conversations with current student ambassadors. And we've seen a massive spike in the mentions of the terms sustainability or sustainable in 2020, with this trend continuing into 2021. And why I wanted to highlight this is that prospective students want to validate whether an institution really walks the walk when it comes to sustainability. So therefore, this isn't only about short-term, high-profile initiatives, but rather embedding sustainability in the sort of long-term strategic vision of your school. I read an article today about greenwashing, having really high-profile sort of marketing campaigns talking about, the sort of sustainability initiatives of your school, but that does need to be kind of embedded in an enduring way, and have meaningful impact. So in a moment, Mina will be sort of best placed to discuss some actual real examples of meaningful, enduring sustainability initiatives. But in terms of what students will be considering when we're making this assessment for themselves as to whether your school is committed to sustainability, THE surveyed students and found that they'll be looking at the school's commitment to diversity and inclusion, whether the school exhibits ethical conduct at an institutional level, and how environmentally friendly the institution is. And that's, like having worked at universities, I know how sort of tricky that may be to hear, because whilst we as individuals can contribute and take a leading role in developing a culture of diversity and inclusion within our institutions, influencing sort of overarching ethics and environmental policy of a large institution is far more complex. However, depending on our role, and we have representatives from many different kind of functions within the audience, including faculty, recruitment and marketing professionals, alumni teams, there will always be opportunities to make a difference within your specific department and function. So I'm going to hand over to Mina now, who will be discussing her experiences at Aldo from a faculty perspective and how they have been placing successfully sustainability at the core of the university and also the business school strategy. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Mina.
Thank you, Jack, and welcome also for those who joined a little bit later. Nice to be sharing our experience with you. So indeed, I'm professor of sustainability management, but I'm also I have a co-lead position on the strategic sustainability at the business school, which basically means I'm helping our dean in some of the decisions on how to implement sustainability into our school's policies and practices. Jack, you can take the next one. Since the beginning of this year, we've had sustainability at the core of the university strategy. So shaping a sustainable future is what we are working for now. And we see it as responding to some of those wicked problems or the sustainability grand challenges, if you wish, like climate change, poverty, loss of biodiversity, and a number of other issues. So it's a very challenge-based, challenge-solving approach that we take to sustainability. And this, of course, puts the frame to what I'm going to say next, because having sustainability as the core of the university strategy helps to work also towards the implementation. Next, please. At the business school, since 2016, we've had the strategy motto of better business, better society, which was kind of a pre-step from our side towards sustainability. And now we have been sharpening it over the past 2 years towards deeper embeddedness of sustainability into our practices. And we have 4 key things that we strive toward, but I mentioned this one from the slide now, which is that we are very much developing our course offerings, and also not only having specific specialized courses, but also embedding sustainability into our ordinary courses. And I will tell you soon how we are working on that. Next, please. So as we see at the level of the university and at the business school, we want to offer three kinds. We want to cater for three kinds of learning needs. We want to cater for those students who want to have only the basic sustainability skills. So this means that everybody graduating from us should have done one sustainability course, but should have also met sustainability in different ways in some of their other courses, like course assignments. Then we also cater for those who want to do a sustainability minor, meaning that they do, for instance, a information systems management master degree, but they want to have substantial knowledge on sustainability so that they are able to translate sustainability to their future management, as well as to implement on sustainability matters. And then we also have dedicated master programs on sustainability. Here I take the example of the creative sustainability, which is collaboration between the business school, designers, and sustainable materials from the School of Chemical Engineering. This program very much takes a systems view to sustainability and is based on this challenge-based approach and educates students who will have skills for transforming their workplaces and beyond. Next, please. So how are we doing this? How are we coaching our teachers to cope with the situation? We offer pedagogical training where there is a sustainability module in their ordinary basic pedagogical teacher training. And we have first piloted the courses, and now it's being offered. We also organize 1.5-day workshops where teachers are helped to integrate sustainability into the course of their choice. Co-teaching means that we help teachers of the non-sustainability teachers. We help them by identifying a junior coach from their own faculty to help them embedding sustainability into their course. So this co-teaching is not only like having somebody visiting your course, but it's having somebody helping you to integrate sustainability to your course. And our SDG labeling of courses is perhaps a bit of an innovation, because at the moment, all the courses that we have listed, the teacher can tag from 1 to 3 sustainable development goals, which the course links to, if the course links to that. Of course, many of the courses are not linking to any SDG yet. I'll show something soon. Then we are also helping our students with an app, but I'll skip that for the sake of time. We can take the next one. And here is what I said about the SDG labeling. You can see that some of our teachers are indeed already tagging their courses. About 1/3 of our courses are currently getting 1 or more SDG labeling according to their teachers. Sustainable production and consumption being one of the most often tagged ones, as well as the sustainable industry and infrastructure SDG. And this is a whole Aldo slide. For the business school, the most common one is the decent work and economic growth SDG. And then we are also, one of our highlights is that the Creative Sustainability Master Program that we've now had for 11 years has been listed by the Financial Times as one of its leaders in the field. Then we can go to the next one. This is just a quick overview of the business school's master level sustainability courses, where we divide them into 3 sets. One is on general foundations for sustainability, one is on functional and sectoral courses, and one set are courses that offer capabilities for working hands-on with sustainability questions. We can go to the next one. This might also be something that interests you. Last year, we launched a new MBA for executives where sustainability is embedded throughout, but this is not a sustainability MBA. It's an ordinary MBA for executives, but sustainability is integrated into the courses. The whole program starts with a sustainability and CSR course. The students write a learning diary over the 2-year program on sustainability questions and how they develop in terms of their understandings, but also in terms of how they see their work and its developments from sustainability perspectives. And there are also the professors who teach are being coached by the program coordinators to bring sustainability into all of the courses. Then let's move on. And now I'm going to be just very quickly mentioning a few other things that we offer in addition. In Finland, 11 universities together offer online courses, what we call the Climate University courses. Jack, you can take the next one. So these are for our students who want to take extra sustainability studies, but are not having the opportunity time-wise or otherwise taking them in the own university. So you can see that there are circular economy courses, climate courses, and some others. We can again go to the next one. And that's actually the summarizing slide. And let me see what I want to bring up from here. I think that my sort of a key message is the importance of embedding sustainability into the ordinary teaching offerings and helping teachers with it, and also following up how that works out. For instance, we are just developing our student feedback forms so that they can reflect on whether sustainable development goals, any of them, were being integrated into the course. So I think I'll stop there, and I would welcome your questions, because I think that will be a fruitful way of sharing more of the kind of lessons that you are most interested in.
Thank you, Mina. I'm going to kick things off with a question, if that's okay, and give the audience time to kind of digest and kind of share their thoughts and questions. But kind of returning to the first part of the presentation, sort of multiple data sources suggests that there's a growing interest amongst business school students in sustainability and the broader theme of corporate responsibility. Is this something you've witnessed at Aldo in terms of increased interest in your sort of specialist sustainability degrees or modules, or even kind of, we spoke about this before the webinar, even income and exchange programs? Is there something that reflected in student interest?
Yes, definitely. The interest is getting reflected on us in a number of ways. If I mention some, all our sustainability courses are actually overbooked. So we have to choose our students instead of like, if I go back 10 years in time, it was more that you were very happy if you got a good number of students to your course. Now it's more the question of, choosing the best ones. Then another way that I can see and my colleagues see is that we are getting a lot of demand for visiting courses of others, for discussing with our colleagues on, what can you do with, a logistics course or something else in terms of integration, as well as we get a lot of requests to visit. Business schools sustainability courses are the most sought after courses by the rest of the Aldo students who want to learn about sustainable business. And also, just over the couple of past years, the Creative Sustainability Master Program has become the second most sought after program of the business school. And what I mean by this is that the number of students in relation to the places that we offer in that program is the second most highest. And overall, I would say that the level of the discussions in the classes regarding sustainability topics are at a totally different level than they were, 15 years ago or 10 years ago. And the students are often saying that we don't need to learn about the problems anymore. We want to learn about the solutions. And therefore, also this solution orientation of ours is gaining even a stronger foothold. So I would say that my young students are actually much more informed about climate change or the loss of biodiversity compared to some of my colleagues.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, well, not good to hear. I mean, like it's, we cited all of this data at the beginning of the session, but it's clear that at Alto, that's actually completely translating into, hard data around student applications and student intentions and their study choices at your university. One thing that kind of struck me then when you were speaking about it was that, and when you were doing your presentation, was that kind of Alto has the benefit, or the business school has the benefit of being part of a wider school, which gives you this kind of cross-functional and cross-subject area expertise within the wider institution. And looking at the audience, we have some attendees who come from a business school within a wider university, and that may be plausible. But for a standalone business school, and this is, I mean, it's you expect you to sort of lay out a full strategy for them, but how would you envisage maybe a standalone business school who kind of only have the sort of traditional business faculties represented within their school? How would they maybe approach creating a curriculum that's as rich as yours?
Well, given that up until 11 years ago, I used to work for nearly 20 years in a standalone business school, Helsinki School of Economics. And already then we were actually giving sustainability courses. I would say that it's a slightly more difficult to get to the area of multidisciplinary master programs or bachelor programs if you are a standalone business school. But I think that if there are sufficiently many professors and other teachers, and if you recruit the right people, you are actually well able to develop programs which are very interesting ones in the area of sustainability in business, then you wouldn't go all the way to, like I was explaining about the creative sustainability master program, which brings in the benefit of the, having the material scientists, having the designers with their skills and worldviews. But I do think that actually standalone business schools are in a very good position of offering highly relevant sustainability related skills, if only they go for it and develop their measures for recruiting and for developing the skills of sufficiently many of their current teachers.
No, I think that's a great point. And I think also another thing that struck me was, this collaboration between the other Finnish institutions. Obviously, this was for those online aspects, but there's no reason, if you're a business school based in, say, London, where you have a rich community of universities with, some of the best scientific departments in the world, that you can't develop these kind of cross institution collaborations and really sort of leverage each other's expertise. And I hope to sort of see that in the future, that could lead to some really compelling academic offerings.
Definitely, absolutely. And that's actually how our Creative Sustainability Master Program started, that we were working with the University of Technology, water scientists, and I think building engineers, in order to develop some collaboration. And then later on, it got more formalized, and eventually the program has then developed. But absolutely, you are completely so right in saying that working across the university borders is extremely helpful here.
We have a question from the audience. So this week, it was announced that Berlin's university canteens are going almost completely meat-free to prioritize climate. Aside from this and developing programs as Aldo are doing, what other initiatives would you like to see rolled out over the coming years? I think this is a really interesting question, because we've kind of focused on the academic and the curricula, but as the sort of student data suggests, and this kind of initiative from the Berlin University, is that students also expect the institution itself to embody sustainable values. I'd be interested in hearing your take on that, be it any initiatives that the Aldo University have followed, or anything that you feel could be replicable across other universities.
Yes, I think this is a very, very important part of the sustainability work, that the university also in its own operations should walk the talk. And we've not done a number of things. I mentioned a few now. One of them is moving over to solar energy, as well as geothermal energy. So we have a lot of solar panels on the roofs, and we also I hope I would remember the percentages, but they are tens of percentages of our energy that are coming from the geothermal heat. And this is constantly continuing, and we are planned to be CO2 neutral in 9 coming years. We have been separating the waste for 15 years at the least, and also we have for students, we are a green campus, so we offer them allotments where they can grow food, and also we have a so-called test site for various types of sustainability innovations that the students can do at the university. And I had one more. Yes, we do a lot of entrepreneurship coaching by the university, and there also we have a couple of years ago changed it so that the SDGs, and sort of the challenge-based approach for the entrepreneurship coaching is one of the key areas that our entrepreneurship it's not really even a unit, it's a whole sort of ecosystem of its own, but those who coordinate the ecosystem are now offering that. So we are in a way incubating more startups that are responding to the SDGs as well. So those kind of things.
It's interesting you say that about the entrepreneurship piece, because actually if you because the data I cited from the Financial Times earlier was from a study done in partnership with LinkedIn, and actually sort of detailed analysis of that shows that of this kind of 20% increase of those going into sustainable based industries, a significant proportion of those are MBAs starting their own businesses in the sector. And like that's, if you sort of segment those who go into entrepreneurship, it's growing even more quickly there, that people are starting businesses in this sector. So it's, you know, whatever your kind of academic entrepreneurship offering is, then like embedding the SDGs within that and making sure that's part of that, I think is incredibly important. And also potentially where you could have, if someone creates the sort of business or the technology that can have a dramatic impact and move the needle on sort of climate change, then the net impact of your institution is huge, right? So if you want to...
Exactly. And let me mention actually one thing here, which is the big benefit from multidisciplinarity, because we have a lot of tech people, but they are usually very, tech. And when in the entrepreneurship ecosystem, in the incubators, they get the cross breeding with designers and with the students from the business school, that gives a totally different kind of opportunities in terms of the success of the future business, because it kind of flies, above just the tech offering. And at the same time, it's very useful for the business school students to have this, because then they don't only have to think of the business models as such, but they actually have the very natural contact with the tech students. And here, if we bring this to the context of standalone business schools, I think that organizing these kinds of hubs for students from different fields to meet, from different complementary fields, is actually almost more easy than necessarily the collaboration between teachers and exchanging course offerings and so on.
A really important question here, and it kind of relates to kind of this idea of just implementation, right? So many of the attendees at this webinar would be like kind of looking admirably at the work you've done, but also somewhat enviously, given the sort of support you've had across the institution and at the most senior levels of the school. Do you have any advice or guidance on how to sort of approach securing this institutional buy-in for really ambitious cross-functional projects like the ones you've talked through?
Yeah, well, for most of my life, I've been in my working life, I've been in the situation where the support was not there yet. And in those times, and in the preparation actually of the current situation, working with different professors who are like-minded, and also the service and admin personnel who are interested in these different topics, has been really important in creating the networks within university that are more influential than just trying to push things on one's own. Another thing that we have been using all along the way is referring to what competitors are doing. So knowing what the good ones in the field are doing, and translating those towards your management is a really good way. And also we've been making use of the student feedback, both positive and negative. So if the students are complaining that they would like to have more something, then using that. But also like Jack, I don't know if do you have the next slide where we have some of the like why do the exchange students choose Aldo? We get a lot of spontaneous feedbacks. We don't ask for this. This is from the free feedback, just some excerpts from students. When they tell that they actually chose Aldo as their destination because of sustainability or responsible management reasons, this is something that you can use towards your leadership, saying, hey, look at this. This is actually something that is important and that we should be paying even more attention to in terms of doing and in terms of communicating what we do. So these kind of things come to mind.
Yeah, I'm glad you've mentioned exchange students, because when I worked at London Business School, I was involved with the sort of management of the exchange program, and we had probably close between a third and a half of our students ended up going on exchange at some point on the MBA. And with a network of kind of 50 to 60 schools, what we found was it was hard to get students to kind of look outside of the obvious choices, like going to Berkeley or NYU. And I think someone like Aldo, who has such a strong reputation and is such a leader in a field like sustainability, means that you can compete with the schools like Berkeley and NYU and attract students due to your academic offering, right? And I think it doesn't have to be sustainability, but it's just a message for anyone kind of involved and having this challenge of drawing exchange students. What differentiates your school and is going to kind of add unique value beyond location, or beyond reputation. And I think, yeah, it's awesome to see that students are coming to Aldo because of the enormous strength and reputation you have academically in sustainability. So I think that's just a really cool takeaway to have. So we are basically now kind of out of time. So unless anyone wants to kind of shoot across a last minute question, I think we need to wrap up. So Mina, thank you so much for sort of joining us today and participating and sharing just a sort of a slice of your work at Aldo. It's been fascinating, and I think we've managed to kind of pull out some really interesting learnings around not just sustainability, but also kind of achieving really ambitious projects within a bureaucratic school. Not saying Aldo is particularly bureaucratic, but anyone who works at a university knows how difficult it is to achieve what you've achieved. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everyone in the audience for attending. We will be kind of circulating a recording and slides afterwards, but don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Mina with any questions you have on any of the themes discussed. So goodbye, and yeah, thank you for joining.